Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Shannon Lane, New Mark Knight, Frank Drew Hanlon, Deli Timpton, Evolution Energy Partners, and Ethan Milrod, Go2 Tech. Ethan, could you give me a rundown on who we have on the show today, please?
Sure, Herb. We have a great show ahead. We have John Schaefer, CEO, Universal Dentistry Management, Mary Fitzgerald, CEO, eluna, Steve Karlovic, President and CEO, CDI Engineering Solutions, and Eva Kosanovic, President, Keeler Americas.
Well, let's get to know our first guest, John Schaefer, who's CEO of Universal Dentistry Management. John, what is Universal Dentistry Management? What are you guys doing?
We provide high-quality, affordably priced dentistry.
And how large or how small is this organization?
Well, we have over 70,000 patients and 80 employees.
Wow, 70,000 patients and 80 employees. And where are you from originally?
Ambler, Pennsylvania, actually Maple Glen.
Mm-hmm. How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I am one of 7. I am in the middle of the pack, the attention seeker.
Uh-huh. So how's that attention seeker playing out in terms of your role with Universal Dentistry Management?
Well, I am the spokesperson, so I'm the one on the ads on TV. So I would say it's continued into the adulthood.
Uh-huh. All right. And Drew, what do you think?
You mentioned you were into swimming as a youth. What did you like about swimming?
I love the idea that it's all at once a team sport and an individual sport. You've got to do your part and win your race, but in the end, it helps the team as a whole.
And how has that experience with swimming impacted what you do today?
Well, I think it's the same thing in business, right? If I do my job well and do it really well, I impact the entire business as a group. And if each of us do that, we can make a successful business.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ethan.
John, what was life like as a youngster? What was the neighborhood like growing up?
Neighborhood was great. I was one of about 30 guys in the neighborhood my age or around there that were still friends today. We still get together all the time. It's one of those quintessential neighborhoods where you grow up and have a great time.
What was special about you as a kid? You know, what set you apart from the other friends in the neighborhood?
Well, I think being the middle child, you always want to be heard, but you also have ideas and you want them to be heard. So you're always coming up with something that you think might make an impact.
So you were the idea guy?
A lot of times, yeah.
Can you recall an early idea that you had, one of the first ideas as a kid in the neighborhood?
Well, sure. I remember there was a lawnmower at the edge of somebody's house that they were going to get rid of. And I said, hey, we should fix that lawnmower and then go cut lawns in the neighborhood. So myself and Billy Kirshner, one of my great friends as a kid, went to the business of trying to fix the lawnmower and get out there and make some money.
So fast forward to today. How did that affect you and what you're doing today? A kid putting together this idea.
In our business, you always have to be thinking about what's the next thing, what can we maximize on in the business, how can we grow and develop it, whether it's marketing something new or coming up with a different procedure that may help the patients better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. John, who was someone you looked up to as a kid?
My dad.
Tell us more about that and why him.
Well, my dad's the first to graduate high school in his family, first to graduate college, and he went on to do great things in his line of work. But he was a gentleman, and those two things, I aspire to be like my dad is what I say to people every day.
And what did you learn from your dad that you carry with you to work every day?
Value the people around you, make sure they know they're valued, listen to them, and be genuine with them.
Mm-hmm. Deli?
Oh, when we were in the green room, you said you weren't that good of a student in school, in middle school. How'd that change? What changed?
When I got to college, realizing not worrying about the grade and worrying about the information and learning it, digging deeper to learn things rather than worrying about, am I going to get an A or a B on this? And I think that was a huge turning point for me.
And so you truly applied yourself. So how does that work? How does that, what you take to work?
I run a dental company and I'm not a dentist. You have to learn this and apply yourself in the knowledge of it, and so you can understand the business as a whole. And that's kind of what I went about doing.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Drew, didn't you have a question?
I just want to go back to the friends. You mentioned your 30 friends and Billy, and are you guys still friends today? These guys?
We are. My birthday, my 50th, was 2 days ago, and I got 30 texts from guys I grew up with just wishing me a happy birthday. One, that we all remember the birthdays, and two, that we're all still in touch. It is a special thing, and I realize it's special.
What does that tell us about you?
Well, I think, loyalty and friendships are probably one of the most valuable things you have, more than anything else in life. And then that also works in how you treat other people. You want to create those lasting friendships with everyone you meet.
And I want to go back to Dad real quick. You mentioned that Dad was a real gentleman. How did he display that to you?
He was someone who he spoke concisely to things and always looked at the benefits of people, always saw the goodness in someone else out there and made sure that you recognize that, and did well by so many people.
What did that mean to you as a youth to see that from your dad and see other people look up to him?
It made me look up to him, and that's a part of I aspire to be like him. I don't know that I ever could do as good as he did, but seeing that it's a goal. And I was blessed to have someone that was that kind of role model for me.
My final question is just what do you hear your dad whispering in your ear when you're faced with a tough decision at the office?
During this COVID thing, I actually had that conversation with myself and my dad. And I said, where is the grace in this, right? When you go through these things. And I just always heard my dad say, take care of the people around you and it will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm. Earlier, you mentioned you're involved with a lot of community stuff and giving back. What was that all about? Why are you doing that stuff?
Because I think it's important. I've been blessed to have some success, to have a company that does well, but you only do well by doing good, as Ben Franklin said. And I believe in that thoroughly at my core, and I want to make sure that I'm doing well by others. That's really where the success is.
Okay. What do you mean you do well by doing good? What are you talking? You're a CEO of a company. What are you talking about?
Well, patients come into our office. We make sure that we take care of them. Sometimes we have to do more for them than maybe they were able to afford when they came in. But it's important that they're taken care of. I run a race, a 5K race that benefits a graduate school in the city of Philadelphia, because I believe in education should be equal across the board, and we do our best to try to do that.
Wait a second. So if I walk into a store and I can't afford something, I can't walk out of the store with it. That's called stealing.
Right.
But you're telling me you have patients come in that need stuff that they can't afford, and you go ahead and do it anyway?
Sure. There's many times. We can't do it for everybody. We're a business that has to grow, but people deserve a break. Everybody deserves a break. And if we can do that for somebody, we try to make it happen.
Why is that important to you, John?
Because I've been blessed. I've had a lot of breaks. And I think everyone will say there's that one break or that one thing that happened that helped you get through to something. And you can't pay that back to them, but you can pay it forward to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Would you see, how young were you when you saw that happen, and how?
Well, I grew up, I was fortunate enough to caddy at places, and I saw a lot of times with the caddies that were out there where members would do stuff for them that I was blown away by, and I thought that made a difference in their day. And I saw my dad do it time and time again.
Do what?
You'd find out that he did something for someone in the office, someone in the neighborhood. People would come up to us later and tell us how my dad helped. He donated over 500 coats to North Korea at the beginning of the Korean War. He did a thing at LaSalle that did that. I didn't find that out till after he passed away, that he ran this massive coat drive over there. And I was blown away that at the time he could do it.
How'd you find that out?
I found an article by chance on the internet.
So he never told you?
Nope. Service without recognition.
What's that have to do with who you are, service without recognition?
No one needs to know when we do something well for someone. As long as they know that they were taken care of and they've got been or appreciative of it, or they pay it forward. I don't look for someone to pat me on the back.
So you're an unsung hero. You're doing stuff that nobody knows about.
I think that there are more unsung heroes doing better things than that. I like to think we do well by people.
What's the website address to your organization?
UniversalDentistry.net.
We've been speaking with John Schaefer, CEO of Universal Dentistry Management here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. We will be back in a moment or two, right after this quick break.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Mary Fitzgerald, who's the CEO of Eluna. Mary, what is Eluna? What are you guys up to? What are you guys doing?
We launched as the Moyer Foundation 20 years ago. We serve children and families impacted by grief and addiction through our signature programs, Camp Erin, Camp Mariposa, and our Resource Center.
How many folks do you help each year?
3,000 to 6,000. We've served 40,000 families through our camp programs and over 140,000 through our Resource Center.
Whoa. Where are you from originally?
Brooklyn, New York.
How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
7 and 7. Keep it easy.
You're the youngest of 7. So what?
Second youngest.
Second youngest. So how did growing up the second youngest of 7 in Brooklyn, how'd that affect you? What'd that do to you?
It was great. It taught me a sense of community, and it also taught me to be resilient and tough and fight my way up the pecking order.
Give me an example of resilient and tough as a kid.
As a kid, you had to make your voice heard amongst other people. My dad had an old brown Velour. People used to think he was a detective. He was a big guy, and he would drive us around to go down to the beach. And my little brother and I would have to sit on the floor and get stepped on by our older brothers and sisters.
So what's this resiliency and toughness? What's that have to do with your building this organization known as Eluna?
A lot of our families and children at very young ages are dealing with abuse, addiction, losing someone they love, losing their sense of economic security. And it just helped me understand that you don't give up and, there's always a way to help people.
So tell me a little bit more about the folks, the population, the folks that you help. Who are they and what do you do for them?
So we help families impacted by substance use disorder. So maybe there's overdose in the family. Could be alcoholism, opioid abuse on the addiction side. And about 40% of those kids are in foster care, and 86% of them qualify for free school lunches.
Okay. Ethan?
Hey, where did this importance of helping others come from?
Came from my family, especially my parents.
Really? And can you remember the first time, as a youngster when you wanted to help somebody and what you did?
Sure. I'm a big animal lover. And I remember my friend Nicole and I found a puppy by our school, Our Lady of Angels. And we went around. My dad would not take more dogs in our house, but we went around and we found, a temporary home for the dog at the fire station.
Drew?
Mary, helping people seem to be part of the DNA of your family. Can you tell us about your dad and how he helped others?
Sure. My dad was an amazing man. He ran into a neighbor's burning house to try to help when I was very young, and still came back and gave me a piggy ride up to bed on his shoulders up the stairs. He was involved with St. Vincent de Paul Society. He used to leave out all the recycling bottles for the guys that were homeless in the park to help them get some money.
What did that mean to you that your dad ran into a burning house?
I was scared. I was young. I was pretty scared. I wasn't sure what was going on. It happened so fast, but it just taught me that you take action when you need to.
And how has that experience, seen that, impacted you and your leadership today?
It just makes me understand that there's a lot more we can do. That's kind of my motto: is we can always do something, right? If
you ever feel like you need to run into a burning house? I'm sorry? I said, do you ever need to run into burning house?
Yeah, I think we all do, right? Literally or figuratively, we all do. And, you just do it. It's not about us. It's about the people that are in that house.
Shannon?
Mary, tell us about your mom and what she was like when you were growing up.
Yeah, my mom was amazing. She was a legal secretary, working mom of 8 kids, and was always really thoughtful. She tried to teach us to slow down a lot. I remember the day I went to take my LSATs, she had left me some cut roses from her garden with a note saying, "Don't forget to stop and smell the roses."
And what did you learn from her that you carry with you today?
I learned to always understand you don't know what's going on in someone's life, so not to judge them, and that, you need to work hard if you want to be the best.
Mm-hmm. Mom left you some roses when you went to take your legal exam.
Yeah.
And the roses, take time to smell the roses. So Mom knew that you were driven?
I think so, yeah.
And you mentioned also that you had not only a legal degree, but an MBA. So you could be making a lot of money with your 2 degrees and your drive. Why are you doing what you're doing?
I love doing what I'm doing. It's really an honor to do, and they do pay me, so I don't want to complain there. But I don't know. It was just a gut feeling. I was working for Fox Sports out in Los Angeles. I had gotten a degree in sports law, and it was great. Santa Monica was beautiful, and I had an opportunity to come to Philadelphia to work with Pop Warner Football, and I'm a big football fan. But it was really the nonprofit side to be able to help an organization grow and professionalize. With the bonus of serving kids, that just really intrigued me and felt like the right thing to do.
What do you mean it was a gut feeling? Career decisions are, it's pretty black and white. You got a law degree, you got an MBA. What do you mean it's a gut decision?
Well, after chatting with some mentors at the NFL and from law school, it was the right thing to do. You have to trust your gut if you're going to make sometimes burning house decisions, right? If you don't have a gut check, if you don't know what you're doing, you can make the wrong decision easily. And I just felt that was the right thing to do.
So how many years ago was this?
This was in 2003, so 17 years ago.
So what do you, 17 years ago, did you make a mistake, or what are you finding meaningful about what you're doing now?
That I'm not just working hard to line somebody's pockets. We're really working hard to make a difference. And that's what it's all about. And when you see, a 9-year-old come to camp with trauma and then be smiling by the end of the weekend, it makes it all worth it.
Why are they coming to camp with trauma?
Because maybe someone died in their family and they're living in a shelter right now. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe their parent is incarcerated.
And how do you help these kids?
We really help them by facilitating a program where they know they're not alone. They're not the only ones that are dealing with these things, and we bring them together and we do lots of fun camping activities as well as therapeutic activities, equine therapy where they get to draw on horses, and also, where they get to share and they write letters to addiction and burn them in the fire to help process their feelings.
So you're implicitly a believer that community is the key.
Absolutely.
What do you mean?
What do we have? I think now with COVID-19, we've all learned how important and how much we treasure community, and having to have calls on Zoom all day instead of being together, and the power of community. Like our co-founder, Karen, says, the bigger the team, the bigger the difference.
Daly?
So what kind of student were you in school?
I was a straight A student. I liked learning.
and you carried that all the way through.
I guess so. Yeah. I feel, and a lot of leaders that I talk to, like the amazing people on this show, if you're not learning, you're not interested and you're not challenged.
How young were you when this self-awareness when this incredible self-awareness that you've got? How young were you when it began to show itself up?
I would say 9 or 10. Just observing, what was happening in New York City, you could see a lot of differences.
What do you mean?
Differences. Some people were divorced. Some people, had a big family, a big extended family. Some people lived in apartments. Some people lived in houses. Some people had 2 parents working. Some people didn't have working parents.
So you saw diversity, and as opposed to judging it, you brought it all close?
Yeah, I think that's what makes life interesting. We were always a big social family, big group, and learning about, people's different experiences and travels and where they're from and, how they're growing up was always interesting to me.
So intimacy is real important to you.
Absolutely. And being forthright.
Intimacy and also being forthright. Isn't that difficult to do, being direct with somebody and also keeping them close? Isn't that dichotomous?
Well, it's the Winston Churchill saying, when you're 20, you care what everybody thinks. When you're 40, you stop caring. And when you're 60, you realize no one cared at all.
So you're comfortable telling people what you think, holding them close.
Yeah, I think I've always learned that from being in a big family. I've always been who I am, no matter who I'm with.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the website address of your organization?
elunanetwork.org.
How do you spell that?
ELUNANETWORK.
.org. We've been speaking with Mary Fitzgerald, CEO of eluna here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment right after this break. Don't go away. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Steve Karlovic, who is the president and CEO of CDI Engineering Solutions. Steve, what is CDI Engineering Solutions?
Herb, we're a architecture and engineering firm. We specialize in chemical plant design, infrastructure projects ranging from roads, bridges, highways to institutional buildings.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is the team?
We've got 750 architects and engineers and designers throughout the eastern U.S.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 sisters, both younger.
Where you from originally?
All over. I was born in Arkansas, and I grew up in Texas and throughout California.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, how many schools did you go to prior to graduating high school?
It's 7.
Wow. Okay, Drew, he's all yours.
Why were you moving around so much as a youth?
My dad was an executive with the Southern Pacific Railroad, and as he got promoted, we got transferred.
Interesting. Tell us a little about your dad. What was he like?
So he was a civil engineer by training, and he was a hardworking, warm-hearted, good human being.
And what do you bring what do you bring to work every day that your dad taught you?
Well, he taught me, first of all, an interest in engineering. That's how I got into this field, technology, but more importantly, I think a good work ethic.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ethan.
Your dad really had a great effect on you. Did you have an opportunity when you were a youngster to go to work with him?
Absolutely. He took me to his office a lot, and what was even more exciting is when there was a train wreck, what they called in the business a derailment, he would take me out to those, and they would go about the process of putting out the fire and putting the train cars back on the track and repairing the rails. And it's really a complex project and an exciting kind of thing, especially if you're 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, what was it about it that really affected you and interested you?
It's, I think, the opportunity to go out and do things and to make a difference.
Uh-huh. And what how's that shown up for you today? This connection with the train derailments that you got to see. What are you up to today? It's different.
We solve problems like that in our business. One of our oil refinery clients had a huge fire, and our team in Baton Rouge worked around the clock really to get that plant back up and running and producing gasoline in about 6 months.
Shannon?
Steve, in the green room, you mentioned you got to see a lot of neat stuff with your dad going into work with him, but it wasn't always easy to make friends when you moved to these 7 different schools. Tell us more about that.
I found it hard, especially since I'm a little introverted to begin with, to develop friends, but you got to do it. You got to reach out to folks, find folks with common interests, and develop a friendship and that sort of thing.
And what kind of things were you doing to make friends?
I would reach out to people that had interests like mine in computers and electronics and technology and similar sports, and would join clubs at school and network with other people to try to grow a circle of friends.
And how does you going through this hardship of having trouble making friends and moving around so much as a kid affect the way you're building your team today?
I think it's given me an ability to relate to just about anyone, to see where they're coming from, to understand what's in it for them and what they can bring to the team.
Mm-hmm. Deli?
In the green room, you talked a little bit about education, the importance of it. Tell us about, you had some influences in school. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I wasn't always a good student, but I was fortunate to have a couple of really good teachers in middle school and high school. And
what were their names?
So Ben Hicks in chemistry, Ray DeNegri in English and Latin, and Rod Leslie in English. And
how'd those guys push you?
They challenged me. They didn't take my basic work product for granted. They challenged me to do better. They gave me special assignments and the opportunity to learn more and show what I could do.
The things that you learned from them, do you bring that to the office today?
I try to. They taught me how to step up and up my game, and I try to do that both myself and with the organization.
Mm-hmm. The organization, which is now 750 people, you said at one time was much larger, but yet you've had to step up. What are you talking about?
So CDI used to be a larger company. It was not doing well as a public company, and we were taken private by a private equity firm. Best thing to happen to us, but it's been a difficult process to go through that downsizing and to take our business, the engineering business, and get back on the right track.
So you learned as a kid that you could step up. That ability of yours when you're under heat to step up and make things happen, is that one of the reasons that you're the fellow that's known as the president and CEO of CDI Engineering?
Perhaps. I've always tried to do my job, and I've, I think, been a solid contributor in my 11 years with the company.
When you were a kid, you mentioned when you were 15, you went to work at a fast food place, A&W. And when you started there, what were you supposed to be doing?
I was a cleanup boy.
And how long did you work there for?
I worked there 4 years after high school.
Not common, so you stuck through it. And when you left, what position had you risen to?
I was the assistant manager.
So you showed an ability to go in and take responsibility and also help supervise and manage other people. It sounds to me like you did a lot of different things in that process. Am I right about that?
That's right. I think I learned every job in the restaurant and how to interact with customers and how to interact with other employees.
So what's that ability of yours that you demonstrated at the age of 15 to 18 or 19, which is to go in, get a job, do it all, take responsibility? Does that have anything to do with the success you're having at CDI?
I think it does, but I will say another thing I'm blessed with is a great team at CDI. People respond to direction, who respond to a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Yeah, I was curious what your sisters would tell us about you.
I think they would tell us that I'm a kind individual, that I'm involved in the community, and that I keep touch within the family, and have been
a kind individual. You're running a 750-person firm that was once part of a public company. Use the word kind? That's not what you typically read about in the newspapers. Where's kindness come into this thing? What's that have to do with building a business, kindness?
Well, I don't know if we're so much kind as a business, but we're responsible, and we do things like during COVID, we've been running blood drives and helping do food drives to stock food pantries. It sounds
to me like there's a kindness. You're just calling it responsibility, but you are giving back to the community. I understand also that you and your wife ride 50 miles a week on these bikes, or 50-mile bike rides. And what's this wantingness and this discipline of yours of keeping yourself physically fit? What's that have to do with growing a business, being physically fit? That discipline.
I find I feel better. I find I am able to contribute to the company better if I'm exercising and being fit. And I'll tell you, getting out there on the bike with my wife is one of the best diversions from the stress of work that I have.
Mm-hmm. So you, in order to step up, sometimes a good diversion is important for a limited period of time so you can step back in. What are you thinking about on those bike rides? In fact, we're going to run out of time here. We'll have to have you back in. What's the website address for your organization known as CD Engineering?
CDIEngineeringsolutions.com.
We've been speaking with Steve Karlovic, who's president and CEO of CDI Engineering Solutions here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment. Right after this break, please don't go away. We'll be right back.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Eva Kosanovic, who is the president of Keeler Americas. Eva, what is Keeler Americas? What are you guys doing?
We design and manufacture and distribute ophthalmic devices to eye doctors all around the Americas and the world.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Bosnia, and I moved to England at the age of 13.
Why?
There was a conflict in my home country at the time.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have a younger sister, 4 years.
And tell me a little bit about how many cousins do you have, and what was your role amongst the cousins?
It was a big family community in Yugoslavia, in Bosnia, probably about 30 in totality. And I was the head girl, always having to take care of them, entertain them, keep them out of trouble.
How young were you when you started making money?
Probably about 10, I remember.
What'd you do? What did you do to your cousins? I mean, what'd you do with your cousins?
I utilized them to create shows and entertain our neighbors and friends and family and anyone that would buy our tickets.
What kind of shows?
They were generally like musical, dance shows, singing. I played instrument and I danced, and so did all my cousins. So
whose idea was this?
Mine.
So you came up with the idea, and you were organizing all the other kids, including your cousins, and selling tickets and putting on shows and organizing these people and figuring out what their strengths were and what their weaknesses and keeping everybody organized. What's that ability to have an idea and pull people around an idea have to do with your role as president of Keeler Americas?
It's very tangible, isn't it? Exactly that. It's setting out the idea, setting out direction, and pulling everyone together for the same common goal, but whilst actually building that trust and camaraderie. So, okay. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure I understood. Shannon?
So I'm curious. I've never been to Bosnia. I'm curious what it was like to grow up there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful country. It was a beautiful time. I had a wonderful childhood. Community was everything. Family was everything.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean community and family were everything?
It's just that it was very tight knit. When things are tougher, people get closer. And I think that, it is just about being together, talking things out, being inquisitive, curious, and always sharing.
When things get tougher, people come together. That's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
What's that have to do with growing a business? I thought when things get tough, you tell people, get the job done or you're fired. What are you talking about?
No, the only way you can get through crisis is by working together, and we've seen that many times over. So just making everybody all aligned just drives that success.
Just like running those shows in those plays. Just wanted to make sure I understood. Ethan?
Eva, you mentioned earlier in the green room that your granny was a very important figure in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about why she was important and what effect did she have on you?
She is an incredible woman, and she's still alive. She was the oldest of the 14. A bit, again, see the thread here as I'm talking. She was having to entertain her brothers and sisters and look after everybody, but also she had a drive and passion to read, to learn. She always told me the older you get, the more you realize how little you know, how much there is in the world to be curious about, to be open-minded about. Just an incredible woman.
Why was Granny the central figure? I think you called her the central figure. And what effect did that have on you, her being the central figure?
I just admired her so much. I aspired to be like her, to be thoughtful, kind to everybody, but also very, very tough and driven to really achieve good for herself, but also everybody around her.
You said she's still alive. Do you still check in with her today?
Always, yes. She's not so... She's not so well, but we still FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
Eva, you mentioned that your grandma brought the family together. What do you remember about those gatherings?
We talked about everything. She had such a vast knowledge of different topics, always challenging us to just explore and just be open and transparent. Nothing was ever taboo or not spoken about.
Why is that important to you, to be open and transparent?
I think it really shows the true value of what you believe in, but also builds the trust amongst everybody around you. What people want to be supported, encouraged, but also understand. And so I think the transparency, openness just creates that trust.
So are you telling me that what your grandmom showed you when you were a youngster has impacted your leadership style and what you're doing today?
I guess so. I do think it makes a huge difference. People want to lead and drive and work together when they understand and you understand your goals. But if you're transparent and open, I think it just goes a long, long way.
And how about this competitive spirit? Where did that come from?
I played ping pong in the league, and I still do actually in Philadelphia. So it's to be individually good, but also work as a team. It's been fun. And I guess it was always cousins, and in my engineering team, like the boys, I had to compete against them. So it just naturally came through, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Deli?
So you talked about moving to England, and you were 13. Tell us about that. I mean, you had such a tight-knit family. How did that transition go?
It was tough, but I think we were very fortunate that my parents were resilient and really persistent in us finding a new way to pivot into a new life and to succeed. So it was tough leaving everybody behind, for sure, but it was also a new opportunity to make new friends and find new ways and actually explore more of the world there is. So,
and did you have a language issue when you came?
Yes, I could count to 10 and say I'm not washing the dishes.
Well, that's good. You didn't just have to do that. So how did you learn English?
I really was thrown into the deep end, just going into the school, absolutely straight into the normal kind of high school equivalent in England. I was fortunate enough that I was good at sciences and math naturally, so that was the easy part, so I could learn the English language alongside.
Excellent.
So,
would you say that was your first foray into networking as a youngster, when to connect and make friends and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think totally. I mean, being surrounded by people my whole life up to that point, I was like, I'm not being by myself. I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to find new connections, find new friends and community to build around us as we work.
What did you love about doing that?
I just think you learn so much from different people. I just absolutely adore to learn stories of others and where they come from and find some common ground. And if not, just learn something different.
Are you continuing to do that today? Do you still continue to network today?
Oh, indeed. Yeah. I'm privileged that I joined the YPO group in Philadelphia. I belong to a chapter in Philly, but it's really fabulous because it's international as well. So through those connections, we continue to expand. I absolutely enjoy doing that.
What is YPO?
YPO is a network young presidents organization. It is international, and it really is about sort of peer advisory, but also going deeper with people within the business to challenge ourselves and really sort of learn about values of self.
Right. So these are CEOs that are getting together with other CEOs because it's lonely at the top. But it's not to talk about business necessarily. It's to talk about your own personal stuff.
Indeed, yes.
Why would you do that? What's that have to do? Why would you guys waste time speaking about your personal stuff if you're responsible for running businesses?
At the end of the day, we are always challenging ourselves, and the better you are, the more deeper you go into what makes you do certain things, how you can improve, and how you can drive better. And if we are better, then everything around is better. I think.
So you're telling me these CEOs are doing work on themselves in order to grow their businesses and improve their teams and all that other kinds. So it's not just how do you make money, it's who are we as people, and you guys are working together to try to figure that out and to improve you're working on yourselves?
Absolutely. And also supporting communities. We do lots of outreach projects and stuff, but I think it's always about exploring what else we don't know about ourselves. You know, I suppose the unknowns that we can work on together in a safe environment to actually really uncover the best potential in people.
It's fascinating. I never hear about CEOs working on themselves to work on their teams, work on their communities. I just hear about business. What's the website address of your organization known as Keeler Americas?
It's KeelerUSA.com.
We've been speaking with Eva Kosanovic, president of Keeler Americas, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Ethan, could you give us a rundown on who else we've had on the show today, please?
Sure, Herb. We've had a great show, including John Schaefer, CEO, Universal Dentistry Management, Mary Fitzgerald, CEO, eluna, Steve Karlovic, President and CEO, CDI Engineering Solutions, and Eva Kosanovic, President, Keeler Americas.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, my talented co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Daley Tipton, Evolution Energy Partners, Ethan Milrod, GoTo Tech, and also Drew Hanlon for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, thank you for joining us today and have a nice day. Bye-bye.